Are you good, Cantor?
Yes, Francis.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Francis Hale. I am the Director for Policy Advocacy and Communications at FANRPAN. It is my duty to introduce our facilitator. If we can mute the interpreter so that they are only audible to.
Yes, we're putting them in the right room. Yes, Francis.
Thank you. Yeah. Our facilitator for today is Dr. Sfiso Ntombela. We still have the same problem, Kanto. Our facilitator today is Dr. Sfiso. Let's allow Kanto to relocate the interpreter into the right room.
Apologize, please wait for the allocation. Sorry.
Thank you. If I can proceed.
Please, the interpreter, don't start yet until we are told to. Thank you. Yes, Francis, you can start.
Yeah, Dr. Ntombela is the Chief Economist at the National Agricultural Marketing Council of South Africa and is responsible for trade research and economic modeling. He is a research fellow with Wits University, the School of Governance. Dr. Ntombela is currently leading the development of the Agriculture and Agro-Processing Master Plan in South Africa and is a regular commentator on radio and TV on agriculture issues. He is also a regular columnist for FIN24 and the Farmers Weekly. He sits in the NAMC, which is also FANRPAN's policy node for South Africa. And we are happy to have him today. This is a network, it's not a FANRPAN thing. That's why we see partners coming in to facilitate. Dr. Ntombela, I yield and give the floor to you for the third and last session of the FANRPAN Annual Policy Dialogue. Thank you. Dr. Ntombela.
Thank you so much, Ndade Hale. I was just still digesting those introductory remarks. As you hear it from the accent, it always sounds like it's the last time, or you used to live with us. So they can be overwhelming at times. So thank you so much for that warm welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all in every corner of our beautiful African continent that you are at. I would like to really welcome you all into this last day of the policy program dialogue that has been hosted and facilitated by our organization FANRPAN. As Francis have spoken, that I work for the South African government, and we are one of the institutions of the South African government, the NAMC, that has been a host nation for FANRPAN for the longest time. We have had very good engagement, and we continue to be a shining light in terms of our policy dialogue within the countries first, but also in the region and the rest of the continent. So we do believe that today will also be one of those great sessions where we are able to unpack critical and but essential areas that affect our food systems, and that also ensures how do we build up on the successes that we have received both here in South Africa, within the region, but also outside the SADC and the SACO region, so that we ensure we do not leave anyone behind, as the concept note of our today's dialogue help us to understand that as we drive and we put systems in place to upscale our food system, the objective is to ensure that we position the food and the agricultural sector as one of the driving engines for the African continent to ensure it meets its obligations and commitment in the UN Sustainable Development Goals, but more importantly, also to ensure that our nations do find way of achieving their goals that they have committed in the CADE process and also in the Malabo Declaration, to ensure that we all geared up to even the Agenda 2063, which is the guiding framework for the African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, with those very small remarks from myself, we are having a very exciting program this morning. I'm often told, Mr. Francis, as well as the CEO of the FANRPAN, Mr. Chilite, and everyone that is present here, that on our side we are sitting the tip of the African continent. We usually say when you are sitting with the elders in the villages, from the village boy as well, from the northeast coast of South Africa, those that have a better understanding of the South African geography. And they usually tell the old village men that you often leave the best for last. So I'm certainly sure that the executive of FANRPAN, together with their host across the African continent, when they were designing this program, they knew that they want to leave the most exciting part into the third session, and we are very fortunate to be part of that. Nevertheless, I do understand that we have had a very fruitful and very engaging first 2 days of this policy dialogue. Today, we will have Professor Lindiwe Sibanda, who has always been a tree of harvest in terms of knowledge and in terms of influence in the policy space, also having had a very prominent role in the upbringing and the growth of the FANRPAN. We'll also have very exciting discussant that will be engaging in the first session of our engagement this morning, where they will be touching on a variety of issues, ranging from those that how do we ensure we put policies and programs that not only appraise and emphasize the importance of youth and women in the agricultural food system, but it also enables them by dealing with the grassroots issues that impact their participation. But we live also in the time of big data. We live in the time of precision agricultural technologies. We live in time of also climate change. And how do we tackle all these completing challenges and ensure that they geared up into an inclusive food system that is leaving no one behind, which is really the theme of our day today. Later on, once we have that engagement, which will be facilitated by Dr. Sibanda, we will then have an opportunity where each and every participant today will be able to reflect from those discussions that will be led, ask questions, engage further, because at the end, today's purpose is really to inspire that dialogue and ensure we harvest the insight and we harvest the solution that will really help us to be able to implement those solutions and those programs in a manner that is effective, in the manner that is efficient, but more importantly, in the manner that is impactful to every citizen of our beautiful continent. Later on, then we'll have the CEO as well as the node representative to give us those official closing, as well as our chief rapporteur, who will capture in some instance the essence of what has come up from here today. So ladies and gentlemen, I certainly then encourage you all to be very active and to be also very ensure that you are engaging in the excitement. If by judging with the last 2 days, I certainly do know that we won't be able to drop the ball, but we will also close it in style. We are also talking at a time when we are just a week late after the UN food system has really been able to conclude its engagement around upscaling the food system and ensuring that agriculture and the food sector is one of those geared to meeting the sustainable goals in 2030. But we're also talking and engaging here at a time when our beautiful continent is really battling with the issues of COVID and the impact it has had, particularly in the food system, as we know that it's still dominated by the smallholder farmers that already before the advent of COVID, they were battling with a variety of issues ranging from development, ranging from the difficult support that they have, as well as the change in climate. And so today it comes at an opportune time to really be able to understand how do we deal with all those issues that are affecting our farmers. But also there are beautiful development that are continuing to shown in our continent as well as in South Africa. One of those being the recently assigned African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which really bring the new opportunities, not only of how to expand the movement of our food systems across different nations within the continent, but also how do we ensure we expand the investment in the areas of infrastructure, in the areas of technology, in the areas of ICT, so that we expand these regional value chains that will ensure our food system is really connected, our food system is processed and adding value, and it becomes the generators of foreign earnings that we so need, so that we can also expand on other social programs that are required to ensure that our continent is developing. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not want to take any further time on it. As I did say, those were just my minor opening remarks that I had. I would like us now to ensure that ask maybe our chief rapporteur to just give us in a very snapshot some of the reflections that I've had in the past 2 days as we make those a baseline for today's engagement. May I then give that opportunity to our chief rapporteur for taking us through that reflection. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you very much for this opportunity. We certainly have had a very exciting first 2 days of our dialogue, which started on the 28th. So yesterday's focus was on adaptation and resilience, on resilience and building back better. And our dialogue was facilitated by Dr. Podisi from CADESA, and he excellently delivered or facilitated our dialogue yesterday. Our keynote presentation yesterday was delivered by Mr. Mahamadou Ba from UNECA, and in his remarks, under the topic Climate Action Pathways to Unlock Food Systems Transformation to Achieve a Zero Carbon Future, he underscored the importance of taking bold actions towards realizing the desired results when we are building sustainable food systems. He emphasized the need to do things differently and introduced some of the interesting concepts that we've been discussing before, such as climate smart actions, green interventions being incorporated across the food system value chain. And so that means from the farm to the fork. And in his remarks, he also acknowledged the complexity of the challenges that we face in dealing with food systems in our continent. And he implored all stakeholders to consider a multifaceted approach in transforming the entire food systems. He explained also in his final remarks that we need to consider the realignment of policies to enhance agriculture productivity and production. We had two panel presentations as well yesterday. The first presentation in the in panel one presentations. The first one was delivered by Dr. Nalishebo, who is from RENAPRI as well as the IFID regional champion. And she was focusing on acting on evidence and lessons from future scenarios modeling to inform policies. Dr. Nalishebo explained the importance of planning ahead and described the IFID modeling tool that is being used in one of the projects that is being implemented together with FANRPAN, the tool that is used to project future patterns of food systems to facilitate adaptation to climate change. The second presentation was delivered by Dr. Akim from the GRA, and he focused on actions for mitigating global the gas emissions, gas emissions that we have, specifically from the African food systems. Kim emphasized the importance of data collection to ensure effective mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions. And he explained that we cannot, and this was quite captivating, the fact that we cannot mitigate what we cannot measure. And so we need reliable data for us to find ways to mitigate against food loss and wastages in the African continent. And one of the key sources of our losses usually happen in the production phase, as well as post-harvest losses. Those are some of the key losses that we are encountering in the continent. And he further encouraged state and non-state actors to invest in research and development to mitigate food wastage and reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. We had interesting statistics as well that he shared during his presentation. Our panel presentation 2 was kickstarted by Dr. Azira from IFAD, and her presentation was titled Towards a Green Economy, Climate Proofing Investments in Support of the Water, Nutrition, Youth, Women Nexus. And in Zira's presentation, the emphasis was on the importance of capacitating both women and youth and the significance, the significant role of technology in building resilience of vulnerable communities against the impact of climate change. Then we had Dr. Tanga from ISIPE, who delivered a very interesting presentation, which was titled Nature-Based Solutions for Resilience, Mitigation, and Sustainable Development, biocontrol, looking at issues related to agroecology. Dr. Tanga demonstrated the importance of nature-based solutions, particularly insects, in improving production and productivity in agriculture. He also highlighted the various uses of insects, for example, generating oils that can be used by humans for different conditions, as well as the use of insects as a source of protein for livestock, as well as humans. So some of us already eating insects, but just to encourage this and scale it up out and deep as a very important source of protein. Further, Dr. Tanga highlighted the significant economic benefits of integrating insects in African food systems. The final presentation of the day yesterday was delivered by Thomas from Lodiac, and he was focusing on the role of ICT in agriculture and food systems. And Dr. Tom outlined how digital technology can improve and enhance the agriculture data and create digital agriculture markets. And we had several interesting issues emerging following the presentations, and some highlighted the significance of a paradigm shift, focusing on behavioral changes in communities and establishing partnerships to effectively deliver food systems in the continent. Dr. Ntombela, that's it. Thanks. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nyone, for those reflection. I will want now to just give, before I introduce our main moderator for the session, the next session, I want to just check if also our audience and the attendees are still with us. Just a minute, if any of those that have been part and have participated in the past two, just the one reflection as an addition from what Dr. Nyone have presented in terms of that beautiful feedback from the last two sessions. If anyone just will have that opportunity in just 1 minute, reflection from the past 2 days in their own experience and in their own note, I will give that opportunity just one, if there's any, by the show of hands. Yes, Dr. Nyone.
Maybe just to highlight, Dr. Ntomela, that I just concentrated on the day number 2, did not just unpack in detail day number 1, but that information is also available to be shared with the stakeholders. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I can clearly see, Dr. Nyone, as well, that you have done a sterling job, that no one else see that you have missed anything on that part. So thank you so much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me then to introduce to you Professor Lindiwe Majela-Sibanda. And most of you, basically, I will be preaching into the converted. Maybe perhaps before I move on, I see Mr. Simba Sibanda. Can I then allow you, say, or to speak? Simba?
Oh, okay, sorry. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Having a bit of challenges with the network this morning. Yeah, just to say that I think on the first day, Dr. Jemima Njuki had an appeal for us to support countries, especially African member states, to implement their commitments that they made at the UN Food Summit, which are contained in their pathways to transformation. And the fact that countries, while they've made these commitments, they're not normally in a position to know how to go forward in terms of implementation. And it's the role of institutions like FANRPAN and partners to support countries to be able to see that these commitments, come to pass. So I think that's critical, and that we also need to take cognizance of the fact that as Africans, we're going to need to invest in the transformation of food systems and not wait for outsiders to do this for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Simba. That's really helpful and very impactful as aid. To also Shane Haddo from the Node Coordinator in Mauritius, you are noted on the chat box. Then I would like us to then step out of those reflections from the last 2 days and really focus now on today's where I'm now opening the round table around the discussion of how do we build up from those key messages that we have learned in the past 2 days, but now ensuring that as we implement those commitments that were made in the Food Summit and other programs and policies that are in place, how do we ensure that we emphasize the issue of inclusive food system as we build it up? And inclusive in nature, it derives a variety of other elements that I think we will be getting those insights in this session that will be facilitated by Professor Sibanda. Those that knows Professor Sibanda, just to remind you who Professor Sibanda is, by training is an animal scientist and a practicing farmer. So not only she's speaking from the point of being an academia or an industry leader, but she's also speaking, she will be helping us from a point of being an experience and a lived experience as a farmer herself. She has served as a policy advisor to numerous African governments and global institutions. Professor Sibanda, she is currently the director and the chair of African Research University Alliance, Center of Excellence in Sustainable Food System at the University of Pretoria in South Africa. Prof. Sibanda is the co-chair of the Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture, hosted by the Food Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in Rome. She is a serving member of the Nestle South Africa board. She's also a serving member of one CGIR system board, the Consortium of International Agricultural Research Center, and the World Veg Board, and also serving, on the World Veg Board. She is also a serving member of the Champions UN SDG 12.3, which focus on accelerating progress towards reducing food loss and waste and towards achieving SDG target 12.3 by 2030. Professor Sibanda has also served in senior leadership positions in a variety of organizations, including being a vice president and a country support policy and partnership for the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa. And more importantly, perhaps in today's session, Professor Sibanda, she has served as a CEO and the head of mission of the Pan-African Food, Agriculture and Natural Resource Policy Analysis Network. Professor Sibanda, with those very welcome, we would like to thank you for your time and for your willingness to come and participate. You are more than welcome. The floor is yours, Prof.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ntaten Ntombela. And colleagues, it's good to be back home. I want to salute the board members, particularly the board chair, Professor Sidi Osho, who is carrying the whole of Africa on her shoulders through FANRPAN. It's not an easy task, and congratulations for the successful annual policy dialogue. My task is an easy one. I've been asked to moderate a session which focuses on inclusive food systems and leaving no one behind. If you ask me where I'm sitting in terms of who should we not leave behind and who should be around the table, the first thing I will ask is what is on the table? And this will help me define who should be there. What I know for sure is that what is not on the table is that we have failed to feed Africans. We have failed to feed Africans with safe, nutritious food. Number two, we have failed to prepare for hazards that we know and we've been warned about for the past 20 years. The biggest of them all is climate change. So as a people, we lack dignity because we are not nutrition smart, we are not climate smart. So who should be around the table? I believe it's not a secret that 80% of the food that we eat in Africa passes through the hands of a woman, either through the farms where they produce the food, the processing factories, most of whom employ women, and the dining table or the floor where we eat our food in those cow dung huts where our grandmothers and aunties still live. That it's the hands of a woman that is harvesting, processing, cooking, and feeding the family. So they should be at the center of this table and of this discourse. If you ask me who should be at the center when it comes to being climate smart, it's the youth, because that is the generation that will be impacted by the damage that my generation has caused. So as we start on this session, I want us to look at this two-pronged problem. How do we ride on the outputs of day one of this annual policy dialogue, where we talked about delivering diverse, safe, and nutritious food? And I'm glad Prof. Simba Sibanda has already highlighted what my friend Dr. Jemima Njuki has said, that unless we equip the women, those that are most affected by the problem, to speak up, be seen, and to identify the challenges that we need to resolve, we will be a talk shop. Let's also dwell on the outputs from day 2, where we spoke about adaptation and resilience, and that we are going to bounce back better. We've been left behind because we have not prepared, but we've made the promise to bounce back better. So in this session, we're talking of inclusive food systems and leaving no one behind. And I want you to focus on who should be around the table. Do we have sufficient youth who are going to be speaking with us? Do we have the women around this dialogue table? And what's in it in terms of the way forward, in terms of correcting our wrongs and making sure we build back better? I'm excited to be moderating a session that takes a deep dive into our continental organizations that are really carrying the flag in terms of research, because without research, we cannot inform policy. Without policy, we cannot have a conducive environment for us to deliver the safe and nutritious food for us to build back better. But one of the missing pieces that we rarely talk about is the issue of innovation. Without African products that we produce, that we patent, and that we put on the shelves for purchase and for reaching our households, everything we own will be taken away by clever people, and we will always be complaining. So as we dig into this session, let's look at the opportunities of what research is being done by our premier institutions, what innovations are already on the shelves or about to reach our shelves, and what's more important, where are the youth and where are the women, and how are we positioning them to build back better? So with those opening remarks, allow me to introduce my eminent panel of 8 speakers who are going to be in a round table where I'm going to be introducing them as they come. And this time, I don't do the introduction. I'm giving each of our speakers a 1-minute pitch about themselves. And the question that I have for them is, why do you do what you do? So without wasting time, I would like to call upon my brother, Dr. Yemi Ofara, who is going to unpack for us why he does what he is doing best and why he's the best man for the job. Over to you, Yemi, my brother. You have 1 minute to tell us why you do what you do, and then you can unpack about the organization over a 5-minute slot. Over to you. Is Yemi in the room? Hello? If Yemi is struggling to connect, I will move on and bring on board our Waipa representative, Mr. Kofi Akwai. Over to you, Kofi. Why are you the best man for the job, and why do you do what you do?
Thank you. Hello, am I being heard?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Thank you, Madam Sembandana. So, yes, I would. First of all, my name is Kofi Kisiedu Akwe. I am coordinator for Waipa Africa. We are passionate about building youth's capacity to contribute to sustainable food systems. We're a network of 15,000 youth all over the world, and then 6,000 in Africa. And I do what I do because what I do actually solves a major problem that we have in Africa and presents the youth as a solution in the food systems and not a problem, as we have always seen it. There have been conversations on the youth bulge and the threat that it might pose to the continent. But I do this job to present the youth as a solution to the food systems and to highlight the potential that we have to bring hope to Africa in our vision of feeding the continent.
So, Kofi, unpack for me, what is WIPAD?
WIPAD is the Young Professionals for Agricultural Development. It's an online and offline movement of youth promoting the agenda of agriculture, trying to preserve the, trying to improve, the perception of youth in agriculture. And with this, we, as I said, we are meant to enable and empower young agricultural leaders to shape sustainable food systems. Yes.
So how did you create the space for you to be visible? I know that in the past 5 years, youth were saying, nothing for us without us. That's a very familiar slogan in South Africa. But now we find that there's WIPAD Global, there's WIPAD Africa. How did you carve this niche so that finally we can hear your voice and not have a panel that leaves the youth behind?
Okay, so I'll just continue with your statements that anything done for the youth without the youth is actually done to them. And so WIPAD provides an opportunity for youth themselves to be built up so they would be able to stand on their own to articulate the issues that face them in the sector, and not just to be at the table, but to be strong enough to present the issues as they are, tease out the issues, and then propose solutions themselves. So we, through our movement, we organize youth to be involved in policy discussions. We actually have trainings for youth themselves to improve upon their presentation, their ability to articulate issues. And yes, within this too, we also build their capacity within their various career paths in the sector.
So now that we have WIPAD, you've had a chance globally and as African youth to put your act together. What would you say are the critical actions that are required for the youth to actively engage in agriculture and in the food systems value chain?
Okay, so youth have had challenges that are actually keeping them away from the value chain. And this has to do with the negative mindset about agriculture, about the unemployment and underemployment state. While they are in the sector, they have challenges with education as well. And the natural unfavorable conditions in the environment also pose a challenge to them. It is very challenging also for youth because they have limited access to assets which they need to do business in the sector, in the food systems. Although these are challenges, there are opportunities with it, because also there's a renewed interest of the youth in agriculture, because we see the value of the sector now, although and we may not be getting the best, it may not look lucrative now because of systems that may not be in place, that there's an improvement in the youth's willingness to engage in agriculture and with the increased use of ICTs. The youth's tech savviness is something that we would really need to harness, because this in itself is important and also helps us to improve so many aspects of the sector. In Ghana, for instance, for Isoko, there's this company Isoko, which does pricing SMS services. It reveals 10% price increase as farmers use this, and youth have been very instrumental in this, in the use of ICT. In Mali, we see yields have increased by a ton per hectare due to the rice advice system that is being used through ICTs. So with this, we would like to, sorry.
No, go ahead, because you started off by saying there are challenges, and you had a long list of challenges. I tell you, if you talk to women, they will say there are challenges. If you talk to men, they will say there are challenges. If you talk to politicians, they will say there are challenges. But you guys are now sitting around the table, right?
Yes.
Tell me what you're eating. You're chowing something. There's got to be something that you're carving a niche for. You can't always be complaining about challenges. Can you leapfrog and show us that you guys, old people, have been leaving us behind? We are now at the table. We are not going to do it your way. We are, it's a revolution, and you're going to change the world. So give me two things that are really going for the youth that you can raise your flag and say, country youth is happening.
With issues that youth face, it is very important for youth ourselves to be involved. And to be involved is not just by sitting at the table, but being active in decision making as well. And so with this, I'd like to present a few issues here where through our interactions with youth in the pre-UN FSS independent dialogues on the All-African Youth in Agribusiness and Climate Change, represented by Waipa and a few other youth organizations, we see that it is important for youth themselves to take action. It is important for youth to be involved in advocacy and to be involved in the process of empowerment to transform the food system. So we raise awareness ourselves for healthy, nutritious, and sustainable diets through platforms available. And also we support advocacy on climate and biodiversity actions. And then we also noticed that in our advocacy, we should focus on youth throughout the sector, because if we focus only on the formal sector, then we'll be leaving out the 50% of youth who we actually have the informal sector comprising of 50% of youth. And focusing on them would also bring a lot of change, because 80% of unemployment, this forms 80% of employment in the ECOWAS region. That's the informal sector. So for the youth, we call that we need some policy measures to improve the food environment. We need to critically assess and increase the allocation of national funds and resources for young people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Kofi,
yes.
Tell me something. Where do you see yourself in 2 years' time?
I'm very much content with being in this sector, And so if there's any improvement that needs to go on in my career, then I should continue to be in this sector and continue to, by which time I am sure that there should be improvement with the increased involvement of youth in the sector. So,
thank you. No one's gonna improve it for you. You better demand it. So we'll come back to you, and I would like to know what makes you different from us, the spoiler generation, the baby boomers. What will make you get to your destination in 2 years compared to what it took me 15 years to get where I am? Thank you. I'll leave you on that note and move on to the CGIR system, the one CGIR Consultative Group for International Agriculture Research, where we're really keen to understand why do we need research and why should it be done at global level? So we have with us Dr. Inga Jacobs-Mata, who's going to give us a 1-minute pitch on why do you do what you do, Inga? Please unmute.
Hi, Prof, and good to chat with you. It's good to also hear Kofi. Such an interesting discussion. Also, I'm so passionate about youth, so great that we started with him. I'm currently the regional representative for the International Water Management Institute. We're part of the CGIR. Why I do what I do, I think, you know, there's a role for research in reimagining what not only food systems, but we refer to it as water, land, and food systems transformation looks like in the region. In Africa, I think there's lots of scope for research to work with, you know, with policymakers, with farmers, with SMEs, and I'd like to tell you a little bit more about, you know, this work that we're doing. But I think there's definitely a role for us to use evidence to support policy development and implementation, but also use it to strengthen capacity where we can, and also, you know, just in terms of this vast amount of innovation and technology that has been developed over many years by, you know, this research community in Africa, in East and Southern Africa particularly. I think our challenge is to look at how do we scale that, you know, to reach those millions of farmers, if we are really to make any difference. So I think that's sort of certainly my challenge and my interest in now working with the CGIR.
Now that you've shared your passion and your vision for what research can do, I want to go back to this double barrel surname that you now have. We've always known CGIAR, but now it's got a prefix of 1. What does that mean?
Yes, you know, we're still discovering that. We're still trying to figure that out for ourselves, to be honest. But I think for us, what we hope it would become is not only reimagining this strategy that we put together, which is, you know, this integrated system, and I'll put.
You are muted. You are muted.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Prof, I was just saying, you know, I think we're all trying to figure this out, you know, what the 1 really will mean. But what we hope it would mean is not only you know, implementing this new strategy, which is now this integrated food, land, and water systems in a climate crisis, but also a reformulation of our structure. It's all happening at the same time. It's very, you know, dynamic process. But I can just say, just from somebody not only sort of maybe leading an initiative, but just a person experiencing this. For me, it's been a real empowering journey over the past months. Many of us on the call, we know the CGIR, and we know that we're one of these squabbling families. You know, we compete with each other as much as we collaborate. But what this process has certainly for me been such an empowering experience is sort of almost demanding us to take off our hat, our institutional hat, and look at what is good for the region. So we all went into this saying, okay, I want water to be on the agenda, or I want maize to be on the agenda, or I want forests or fish. And it's sort of it said, no, you can't do that. If you want to really reimagine what the systems transformation looks like and make a difference, you're going to have to stop squabbling. And I think that's what the one for me is meaning, you know.
Well done. Not heard it said so well and with so much passion. And I think one of the things you've really brought to the table in this discussion is that the biggest problem in the research journey and in the innovation journey has been the researchers themselves, in that you always want to go to a farmer with your water hat, and I go with my animal science hat. And yet it's the same farmer who is looking at an ecosystem. And you've just said it so beautifully that one, ONE, says, this is Africa, this is Southern and East Africa, this is East and West and North Africa. What are the societal problems and how do we solve them collectively? And I think if we can all come up with strategies that say, how can we be nutrition smart? How can we be climate smart? The answer will be water. The answer will be African livestock. The answer will be African crops. But unfortunately, we started with what can water do for you without saying what is the problem that you're solving and what can water then do for you. So thank you so much, Inga, for passionately unpacking a new way of doing business where we are one, but we are addressing societal problems that are affecting the practitioners. Let me come back to you in terms of what you brought in, WLE, water, land, and ecosystem. I've always had problems with the word ecosystem. Can you unpack it for us in the context of food systems?
Sure. Well, I can try to unpack it just in terms of how we're talking about it now in this one of the initiatives that I'm very privileged to lead under the One CGIR. We have 32 of these initiatives we talk about, you know, and 6 of them are regional in scope. So I'm privileged to lead the East and Southern Africa initiative. And what we talk about is a real in fact, our initiative is called Ukama Ustawi, which is a funny name, but it's a multilingual term. Ukama, many of you on the call, it's a Shona word, right? And it means humanity's relatedness to each other and to the biophysical. And Ustawi is a derivative of a Swahili word, which means well-being, prosperity.
Finally, Global Network is speaking in vernacular. Then my grandmother can relate to things like Ukama Usavi, because all along it was CGIAR. It's such a tongue twist.
It's too difficult.
By the time, and the worst one in the lot is Imwi, where I had to be trained by Dr. Doug Mary that no, the W is silent. It's the M that comes out. So thank you and congratulations, Ukama Usavi. Please unpack that for us.
Yes, sure. And you know what we're saying under Ukama Ustawi, or U2 for short, is simply this, that we have a principle of interconnectedness. So we talk about a system, a complex system, multiple systems. We talk about the food system, but we also talk about the agribusiness system or ecosystem, right? Agribusiness ecosystem. And we feel we needed to focus on this agribusiness ecosystem, the missing middle, the SME, because they are the link. They link the farmers to the market. And we felt that if we can target our efforts also to support that SME pipeline to grow, we are you know, we're growing from the middle out. So when you ask what does ecosystem mean, I think we define it in different ways. You know, we talk about the biophysical ecosystem, but we're also now talking about the agribusiness ecosystem. And we're talking broadly, you know, the agri-food system at large. So that's sort of how we're seeing it. It's complex, and sometimes critics say, well, what is your focus? What are you really, you know? And we're saying, well, you know, we're wanting to make transformative change, and so we got to look at the whole. And that is the complexity that we live in here in this region.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So Inga, I'm not leaving you all behind. We started off by nutrition smart agriculture and climate smart agriculture. Give us the scare figures on water, because we're definitely not climate smart. We are not nutrition sensitive enough in our agriculture systems. Can you help us close our eyes and locate water in that framework of our journey where we want to be climate smart and we want to be nutrition sensitive? What is the context of the water agenda, and how far are we from danger point or success point?
Yeah, that's a good question, Prof. You know, the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report that just came out this year, it was, I mean, many say, well, it's been saying the same thing for several years, but it's interesting how scientists are now talking about, you know, drought and floods as being unequivocal. That's the word they're using. So before it was sort of high risk, or, you know, these other words, and now it's sort of very clear that, and this region in particular, you know, Southern Africa in particular, we know that we are going to, or are experiencing, increasing severity, increasing frequency of floods and droughts, and often a combination of these. And you know, and this is why smallholder farmers are now more vulnerable than what they have been in previous decades, because they're dealing with these combinations at the same time of natural disasters. And I think also, you know, how these multiple climate impacts, how they cascade down to communities and to businesses is what is really undermining livelihoods at the end of the day. Also, this region, we know that the maize crop is still sort of, it still reigns supreme, you know. We see declines also in the yield without adaptation. We know that these maize-based systems cover sometimes 75% of cropping land in some places, and they are degraded. They lead to severe levels of malnutrition. I mean, our levels of malnutrition in the region here are not much lower than what they were in the 1990s. So that, for us, that is the big challenge. We need to put a lot of effort in diversification. We need to look at how do we have more mixed systems and have the markets that can you know, that can promote that, the value chains that can promote that. So I think that's certainly, you know, where we're putting our effort. And of course, like you said, water is central to all of this. You know, if we're talking about diversifying to different crops, do we have enough water availability in a particular basin area to sustain that? And so that's what we're looking at right now.
Thank you, Inga. Thank you. I will come back to you on those scare factors. Give me one that will put fire under our policymakers' seats so that there is action. You keep talking this region, but this dialogue is Africa-wide. But because you're talking this region and you love East and Southern Africa, let me jump to COMESA, because that is the mother body for our region, the common market for East and Southern Africa. let me bring in Ms. Providence Mavubi and tell us why COMESA and why do we need you? Over to you, Madam Providence.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and thank you to the organizer of this forum. It is a pleasure to be part of this roundtable discussion. Yes, in your introduction, you asked us to pitch why us. Yes, COMESA is the common market for Eastern and Southern Africa, a 21-member state organization that came together to promote regional trade through integration. And we are doing this because we have seen the need to promote the regional integration through trade, but you can trade what you didn't produce. That's where I come in as the head of industry and the agriculture division at the Secretariat. These are productive sectors that will enable to unlock many of the challenges that the African continent is facing. So here at COMESA, we are not only promoting industry development or agriculture development, but we are coordinating with sister RECs in harmonizing policies toward promotion of those productive sectors. We are working with multi-stakeholder institutions and across different sectors to make sure that we get it right through different engagement we are doing. As we come up with policy, we're working with the research institution. That's why we are a member of the FANRPAN at the African. We are a member of the RENAPRI. We are also member of the ASARECA and the CADASA in the Southern Africa, because we want to get it right from the research point of view to policy making. How do we make sure this food system is speaking to the need of the people we are serving here in the common market of Eastern and Southern Africa? So how do we do that? We do it through coordination, through policy harmonization, through advocacy, through networking. We make sure that we bring all stakeholders on board to ensure that benefits that we are getting from economic growth across the different sectors are equitably shared. So, Madam Moderator, in summary, that's what we do as COMESA. We facilitate.
Okay. So you've spoken about sister RECs.
Yes.
First of all, how many countries make up COMESA, and who are your sisters and brothers? I hope it's all sisters.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. We have 21 member states from Tunisia to Eswatini, including 4 member states from the island countries. And who are our sister RECs? We are having a tripartite agreement with SADC and RECs. Although we don't include the rest of Africa, we have good collaboration with the Maghreb, with the ECOWAS, as well as IGAD, because some of our members are part of those RECs also.
So in how many countries are you covering?
We are covering 21 member states, all the way 21. From Tunisia to Eswatini.
So does that make you the biggest regional economic community?
On the continent, yes, we are the biggest regional economic with more than 508 million people we are serving.
Wow. Now that's a lot of power sitting under your belt. What big thing have you done for food systems? What's in your cards, or what have you already delivered so that we can raise your flag high?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Yes, the first things we made sure is that our member states are compliant to the CADAP Marabo Declaration. We have been supporting the 21 member states to report regularly on the progress to increase their national investments done in the agriculture sector and developing of their national investment and food security plan. Because we believe if you don't know where you are going, you cannot even reach there. So we started there. Secondly, what we have done is harmonization of policy. We have the COMESA seed harmonization policy that member states have adopted, and it is helping to ease movement of input across the region, because country COMESA can easily recognize, accept the standards from the other country. Thirdly, we are working on a regional digital food balance sheet, because we want to know who's producing, how much, where. It is very sad on our continent that some of our countrymen on the continent are facing hunger, while the other country are having a lot of post-harvest losses. In yesterday's, in one of the speakers, we saw that more than 30% of food produced on the continent is ending up as a waste, while in the Horn of Africa, majority of our countries are faced with starvation. So through this regional food balance sheet that we are developing in partnership with AGRA and other development partner, is to make sure how do we increase the flow of agriculture commodity from one country to another? How do we make sure policies that are developed are really addressing the issues? They are evidence-based informed decision. So that's another things we are doing to address issue in the food system.
So congratulations, COMESA, particularly on that seed harmonization policy. One of the FANRPAN grandfathers, Dr. Weinert van der Walt, once told me this is a $4 billion industry that we were putting to waste. And by harmonizing policies, we can now breed a variety in country Z, move it to country Y with minimum disruption or protocols for delaying delivery to farmers who need the seed the most. So well done on stepping up on that. You are speaking a lot on harmonization, but you cannot harmonize without data. You are speaking a lot about areas of hunger and areas of plenty, and you cannot do that without harmonization of trade. Do you allow me to now bounce off now and go to academia and find out from our continental bodies? We have got with us Dr. Racine Lee, who's been playing with big data, who's been pushing the new kid in the block, which is celebrated by all, but is yet to deliver. And the question I have is, why do we need the Africa Free Continental Trade Platform, and what is it going to do for us? Thank you, COMESA, and over to academia.
Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you so much, Prof. This is a pleasure to join you in this discussion. So my name is Racine Lee. I work as a Director of Data Management, Digital Products and Technology at Academia 2063, which is an international nonprofit organization headquartered in Kigali, Rwanda, with a regional office in Dakar. So the mission is to create state-of-the-art technical capacities across Africa to support efforts by the member state of the African Union towards the realization and the goals of the Agenda 2063. So the question you raised, Professor, about what the Africa Free Trade
Before I
Continental
even
Trade
go
area.
there, Dr. Racine, why do you do what you do, and why you?
Sure, thank you. We do what we do, and why
No,
us?
you do,
because...
you do. I want to know you first before I go to Academia's 2063.
Yeah. Yes, I want to do what I do because I want to sit at the table where I can bring the technological aspects in decision making from the youth perspective. If you look at the anatomy of decision making today, you have input data, predictions, judgment, and training to have an action and outcome. What we've been witnessing since we were born as youth is that decision making is based on experience, but also training. What we can do is to bring emerging technologies benefits in the decision making for improvement. Therefore, decision makers can add value to those new technologies outputs like big data and also predictions like machine learning to help navigate through these uncertainties area we are living in.
What is big data? I want to be able to explain to my grandmother when I say I've got Dr. Racine Lee, who's doing big data, and break it down for me.
Yes, sure, Madam Moderator. Big data is more a concept that other technologies can nurture, and those concepts, those technologies put together will help you to process data faster. We will have more and diverse data, and therefore we will have more analytical tools to derive information and knowledge to inform decision-making and businesses. Basically, that's big data.
Again. I say, encore, what is big data? I want to be able to touch it in my fingers.
Big data is having more data than before that we can process fast to have more information for the decision we have to take.
So it's more figures, faster processing, and input into decision making. So what is different from the way we used to do it? Number crunch at the back of an envelope, and as a policymaker, you say, we go for it, we got it. What is the difference? How big
the difference. Oh, now we're talking about zettaflops of data. Let me break it down. So today,
what's the word?
If you look at the, sorry, zettaflops.
How big?
It means zettaflops. It means like billions of data that are coming at the same time. What has changed compared to what we used to do in the past, basically, Madam Moderator?
So what does it take? What does it take for someone to understand big data? What sort of training did you have to undergo for you to be a big data man?
Yeah, well, you just have, first, the first question in terms of what has changed is that now the storage capacity we have with the improvement in the data processing chips, for example, and the data warehouses increases for the last decades. So therefore allowing us to store more data, and we have more sensors to collect the data. Now, what it takes to learn and master big data, you have to have a strong background in IT technologies, in computer science, but also in data visualization aspects. Those three are core skills that we need to have when we want to enter the field.
Thank you. So for young people wanting, I think it's too late for me, but there is a great opportunity for my grandchildren to go big data and do the big stuff and turn the world around. Let's go back to academia. Tell us, unpack us, what are you doing for Africa there?
All right. What we do for academia is to, for African countries, is to provide data and analytics to African countries for through our three main core programs. You have RESACS, Regional Strategic Analysis and Knowledge Support System. You also have the Development Policy Consortium, and
we lost you. I lost you a bit. Can you paint the triangle for us? You've got RESACS. It's all difficult words. RESACS, who are they?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now. Who is RESACS?
So RESACS stands for Regional Strategic Analysis and the Knowledge Support System. Basically, what we do is to support the CADE process.
Excellent. Who else do you have?
Then we have AGRODEP, which means African Growth and Development Policy Modeling Consortium, which is providing training in economic modeling for.
Excellent. So RESACS, AGRODEP, who else do you have?
And you have the Malabo Montpellier Panel and Forum, which is the platform between countries to learn from each other, from their successes.
Excellent. Is that the three?
Those are the three programs right now.
Excellent. So walk us through, what do you do for Africa?
So what we do for Africa is to provide data and analytics for African countries to match their objectives in transforming their agricultural sector. So basically, when countries need more insights or to inform their policies, we come in with our tools and our access to, for example, and our modeling tools, build them a platform where they can get the information and have the insights for the policies. So that is our main work into African countries.
So Rasen, tell me something. Who are your clients and how do they beg to apply for a job? Not a job to work, but for you to provide the services.
Oh, yeah. First, we have the African Union. They are strong partners in the work we are doing in supporting African countries. But African countries also come to us without going through the African Union. They have a specific program in the agricultural sector and beyond also, they can come to us and expose the need of data and analytics. Then in collaboration with them, we define their needs and then the appropriate tools we can build jointly.
So show me one successful thing you've done for a partner.
Thank you. As I said, bringing emerging technologies in transforming agriculture is what we do. And recently we launched the Africa Agriculture Watch. Mm-hmm. So what is Africa Agriculture Watch? Basically today, Mrs. Moderator, when the raining season started, and then, for example, for my grandmother, for example, she might need to know, given the weather, like climate, temperature, rainfall, and also the soil, how can you tell me what will be my potential agricultural harvest, my crop harvest at the end of the season? I might need that information because it will mean that I can sell better, how much I can store for my own living with my family and generate like more money for our livelihood. So now what we did actually is, for my grandmother, I will go before the growing season into the satellite and say, okay, now I would like to collect all the information that I can gather about biogeophysical parameters for my grandmother's farm. Once I get that information, based on the historical production that she has, I build a model. And then I will tell her, grandmother, in 2 months, 3 months, you can expect this amount of groundnut between A and B. And then I provide that to the farm. But also at a national scale, I can provide it to the government. So what we did actually is...
Wait, let's get real. I'm farming currently in Zimbabwe, and we had a bumper harvest last year. And God forbid that they can hear me, but I was very reluctant to part with my harvest because I'm not sure already what I knew should have happened by now has not happened. We're supposed to have rains in August so that we tend the fields and prepare for planting in November. Those rains have not come. It's October 1 almost. We're heading to the hottest season, and we should have tended our fields so that we are ready for planting, which is normally in November. That has not happened. Do I have to pick up the phone and phone academia? Do you have tools that are online or on my phone, somewhere where I can press buttons, input the right data, and you speak to me rather than speaking to the cloud?
Sure. I cannot share my screen here, otherwise I would show you the online platform we built.
Put it on the chat when I move to the next speaker, but do even better than that. Take it to the farmer. That's what Norman Borlaug said. How are you making sure that these glossy outputs that are sitting on your shelf are reaching the user? Talk to me.
That's a very good question. But first, my moderator, we don't tell you if it will rain or not, but on the rain that didn't come and the temperature spikes we measure on your field, if you plant, we can tell you how that might affect your production.
So you tell me what you want to tell me, not what I want to know?
No, because of technology, if I predicted the rain, you can have so many variability. This is technical aspect from the predictive modeling side. But if we take those input parameters that you talked about, take the variability and the corresponding production, I might tell you, okay, you will have a decreased production this year or an increase.
And that's what I want to know. It's about decision making, but I always find our farmers are shortchanged. You are talking of a tool that you need to post online, but how does it get to my grandmother who has already been keeping money for her seeds? How are you collaborating with the national platforms that should make sure information trickles down?
Today, one of the biggest aspects we need to innovate in countries in how we get those information available to farmers. I do agree that these platforms are sort of hard to digest for the farmers. They might need immediate information to take action. So what we do is the platform is provided to countries. We customize the platform for countries, and we ask them to train the farmers organization as a gateway to get to the farmer. Us as Academia 2063, it will be a little bit difficult now to do this work at the policy level and then go on the ground to share it with the farmers.
We don't want duplication. We complain of our dying extension systems. We complain of our dying research systems at national level. So can we build on what we have and make sure that we resuscitate the dead and we add value for the benefit of the farmer? But congratulations, Academia. We needed in Africa a platform that does big things, big data. And we needed you young people in there to showcase that our own Africans can do cloud too. So well done. I'll come back to you, and we want to hear more outputs.
Sure. Can I just one last thing, Mrs. Moderator?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Very quick. I think extension services and sharing these tools might be important. They are. But I think we need to invest more in how we deliver the information. Leapfrogging the information. I mean, maps and graphs might be difficult for the farmer to read and understand, but we need to find a way to show them the information they need.
Rasim, you are talking to a farmer. That farmer can be Lindiwe, Professor, PhD. Talk to me. I still cannot access those services. And let's not think of the farmer as the farmer of the old. You saw our young Waipa guy. It's you, the young guys, that are the farmers of today and the future. So get what's on the shelf to them whilst you demystify the process. But our extension agents are already trained to deliver complex messages to the ground. But congratulations and thank you so much. I'll come back to you.
Sure.
Whilst we are on continental bodies, let me go now to the Rolls Royce of continental bodies, FARA. We have here Dr. Yemi, my brother, who's been the father of Africa's agricultural research for development. Yemi, welcome. Haven't seen you for a long while. We blame it on COVID, but thanks to technology and big data, we can talk real stuff. Tell me, my brother, you've been driving FARA with passion, with all your love, and I'm sure you'll get the grandchildren that you've been so excited about to be researchers. What makes you do what you do?
Well, thank you very much, my dear sister Lindiwe. Indeed, it's been a long while we haven't seen, and a very good morning, good afternoon to everyone on this wonderful platform. It's a great joy to be able to be a part of this conversation, a very important conversation, by the way. Short answer, Lindiwe, why do we do what we do? It is coming from the understanding that agriculture is so important to the socioeconomic emancipation of Africa. You and I, we have devoted total work life into Africa's agriculture. We're just now at the zenith of our careers. And all of this is to achieve one aim, to make the good better in the Africa's agricultural system. So that is from a personal or from a collective point of view, but FARA, well, you call it a Rolls Royce, I'm not sure about that, but nonetheless, thank you for the compliment. What FARA is set to do is to help connect the dots. I was very, very impressed listening to Racine and listening to my dear sister from Comesa and all of that. These are the soft parts of the same conundrum that we're trying to sort. And so as there is the soft part, there is also the hard part. And what we try to do is to ensure of some sort to connect the dots so that this huge machine can actually function and we can deliver a functional agricultural system that is based on science. Okay, I'll leave it
So
there.
who are your brothers? We had Comesa talking about their sisters. Can you unpack for us in FARA, who are your babies or who are your brothers that constitute, so that we can visualize this FARA and see how its legs and feet step on the ground to reach our farmers?
Well, very good. If we, but I mean, I always say that although I sit in Accra, I am able to reach the last farmer in Antananarivo if I choose to. And this is simply because of the institutional frame within which FARA works. So this is the architecture. FARA works at the continental level, but FARA is underpinned by 4 sub-regional organizations. But yet, at the continental level, FARA is the technical arm of the African Union Commission on Matters Relating to Agriculture, as well as the African Union Development Agency. So we support these 2 institutions in resolving and dealing with issues around agriculture and agricultural research and the science behind it. Now, sitting under this continental institution called FARA are 4 other organizations that are geopolitically situated across the continent. So we've got CORAF for our friends from a western part of the country, based in Dakar, of the continent rather, based in Dakar. We've got Asareka, based in Entebbe. We've got Kadesa, that covers the southern part, based in Gaborone, and we've got Nasro, based in Cairo. But alongside all of these, we also have the AFAS, based in Kampala, the African, the Agricultural Advisory Services, based in Kampala. So with all of these, we have a geographic cover for the continent, and we also have an interface with virtually every farmer through the Pan-African Farmers Organization and some of the regional farmer institutions. PAFO actually sits on my board. So from a governance point of view, we are very, very much connected to the leadership of the Pan-African Farmers Organization on the continent. So this is, in a short phrase, this is how we're set up, this is how we're wired.
Excellent. So I can visualize the head, the arms, and the feet on the ground. And the good thing is you're not just research, you're also strong with an extension on the extension side and advisory services. Dr. Yemi, what is one big thing that FARA has done for Africa? What have you delivered? What will be your legacy?
Very good question. I will say that the science agenda for agriculture in Africa is one tool that has been Africa-led, Africa-owned, and Africa-managed. We're not there. It's a work in progress, but I can say that for certainty, this is one initiative that has driven us a lot closer than where we ought to be. Now, let me say a bit about the science agenda for agriculture in Africa. I personally always say that, for as long as I have been a scientist, since I have been an agriculturist, let me put it that way, the challenge in Africa's agriculture has been a huge science deficit. We can never grow our agriculture based on hoes and cutlasses. And I was listening to Racine. It's awesome to be able to give all those models and support farmers with necessary requisite information to do their business. But if a farmer is still growing grains instead of seeds, the net effect is still going to be zero. Because we look at what is called the most limiting factor in the whole spectrum. So it's good that we are mending all of these patches, but the net output is going to be determined by the most limiting factor. And as of today, ma'am, the quantum of science in our agriculture is not commensurate with the desired growth. Number one.
What should we do? What needs fixing? What needs fixing?
The way I put it is this: raising Africa's agricultural productivity is not rocket science. But no country has raised its productivity without science, because agriculture is biology. Now, in 2003, the political leadership of the continent put their heads together and said, oh, we've got to do something and galvanize growth in agriculture. 10% of our public expenditure must go into it.
Yeah.
In 2023, it will be 20 years that they said that. And in 20 years, we have been singing the same line of the same chorus. We have not finished stanza 1. Then in 2014, 11 years after Maputo, we landed in Malabo. Then we said we're going to have the African Accelerated Agricultural Growth, blah, blah, blah. In 3 years from now, we will be Malabo plus 10. And we are still unable to double productivity. We have AFCTA now. We said we will triple or double inter-regional trade. But as of today, while all these frames are there, the ingredients to cook this soup is still not on the table.
And what is that ingredient?
Well, the African farmers need to have the intellectual capacity and the institutional support. The institutional support, for instance, the cost of doing farming, and I know you are a great farmer, my dear sister. If I want to set up a dairy farm today somewhere in Zimbabwe, you know that's an uphill task. Compared to if I were to be in another continent where on the touch of my laptop, I can order my heifers, I can order the veterinary service, the semen I want, the feed I want, the vets I want. I can order all of that in one go. So the cost of doing agriculture, the institutional support for deploying science in the agricultural space is still a bottleneck. And
okay, so we know the problem. What is FARA bringing to the table?
Okay, the whole essence of the science agenda for agriculture in Africa is to raise the bar and to, encourage the African government to embrace this initiative. It was actually sponsored by IFAD, and it was launched in Johannesburg a few years back. And we managed to set up some key countries that should lead this process. I mean, we did it in Senegal, did it in Malawi, did it in Cairo, did it in Rwanda, we did it in Ghana, so that this can be some, if you like, your de facto model, the pace setters. So but of course, you cannot implement science without money.
Yeah.
And it is so sad that we still depend. And one of the things that Kanayon Wanze, the chief proponent of the science agenda at the time, president of IFAD, said was that Africa's agriculture is too important to be outsourced.
So let's be bold. Call them out, Dr. Yemi. Who needs to do what?
Well, the government needs to put their money where the mouth is. I mean, they spoke in Maputo. Let's put a framework. Framework was created, CADEP was set up, but it took us 10 years. In 2013, the song was sustaining the momentum. 10 years to sustain the momentum, and 10 years of hunger and famine. And mark you, in the same window of time, 2000, the UN set up the Millennium Development Goals were supposed to halve poverty. 2015, poverty has halved us.
Thank you. You're calling them out. I hope they can hear you. Government, put money where your mouth is. But one of the things that we're not doing so well in is really building that pipeline. You can have the money, Yemi, but if you don't have the scientists, you will not be able to deliver that science plan. Allow me to cross over to universities now. Ruforum, you are the premier entity in Africa that's looking at capacity development in feeding the pipeline of our food systems work. Can I invite now our Ruforum representative, Dr. Anthony Ageru? Why do you do what you do, and why should we take Ruforum seriously?
Thank you very much, Dr. Lindiwe. Good afternoon from Kampala. It has been quite an early morning rainy day, so it is a blessing in the hearts and minds of an African.
Yes,
we celebrate rain, so the farmers are happy, and that is a good sign that there will be adequate food. Although sometimes it starts by raining in town where there are no farms, and then the farmers don't have the rain.
They need the
but
water.
Anyhow, why do I do what I do? Basically, I think first is that I'm a child of a farmer, raised by a grandmother who happens to have been a peasant farmer, who didn't have an education herself, but had a lot of attachment to education. She saw the value in education, so she did all that she could to ensure that her children and grandchildren see the passes of a school. Now,
you better not call that one a peasant farmer, because that's your paymaster. Call them master farmer.
Yeah, so with that master farmer, she really inspired, put for me four key issues across what I learned from her. I think the first one was really the value of hard work and persistence. And the second really around providing opportunity for others to attain an education. And the third, the value of education as an opportunity enabler. And probably the fourth issue for me that breathed in it is that we need to always create opportunities for progression of others. Those 3-4 issues have really defined me as an individual, and why every day I wake up to be in office probably by 6:37 a.m.
Well done.
So those are my energizers.
Keep burning, but take us to Ruforum now. What does Ruforum do for Africa? You've heard the challenges. We don't have money, we don't have the scientists, and we have Ruforum. What's in it for you?
So thank you very much, Madam Moderator. I think first is that the money is out there. The issue is how to get it home. And those who have the money always also keep saying there are no good ideas to fund. And probably I would like to start from what Yemi has just ended with, that Africa's agriculture is too important to be outsourced. And why the money appears not to be there is because we are outsourcing Africa's agriculture to others. And so until that ends, then we will have the money. When our governments wake up that we don't need to outsource our agriculture and our human capital development, then we will have the money to inject within our human capital development and our agriculture sector. So back to what does RUFORUM do? For those who may be starters, is that RUFORUM is a network of 129 universities across 38 African countries. And our elder brother, we have been working with Yemi for quite a significant time. If Professor Dipala was around, they would be sharing good laughter on the long journey that they have come.
Yeah.
So with we are actually a network, and we can be able to say that we operate around 4 key, we are running a 4 flagship arrangement, which is focused on transformation, on building capacity for agricultural development in the continent, and enabling and supporting agribusiness development, particularly starting from within the universities and moving to catalyze rural agro-industrial processes. And then the 4th one is really that being a network of universities, convening and bringing others, networking and advocacy is a central core to what RUFORUM does. So these 4 processes, ensuring that we have science for development, we have requisite capacity, we have to move beyond capacity and begin to translate and create more opportunities through agribusiness and entrepreneurship, part and parcel of the central core to RUFORUM. So
RUFORUM, well done, well structured. What have you done for Africa?
So
and
how
old are you now? RUFORUM, not you, Anthony.
Yeah, so we are now a baby of 16 years. We are almost moving to adulthood to celebrate by the context of age, about 18 years. So we hope by
Don't
the time
worry,
we are 20 years.
in Africa, up to 35, you'll be youth. So keep going. What has RUFORUM done for Africa? Over to you.
All right, so over the last 16 years of operation, first is that from the direction of human capital development, so far we count that we have been able to support at least 562 PhD fellows to be trained from across 27 countries in the continent. We can talk about the output of masters and ensuring that we have a pipeline of those who are in the master's training. We've done about 3,000 masters, and currently we have about 700 students on the different master's programs and scholarships that are enrolled in in various universities under our scholarship programs. Now, that is really what we say. RUFORUM is not just about coming and walking out with your degree and you go and pipe and celebrate. So the issue is that you are an agricultural change agent and an agricultural leader when you are enabled and enrolled within the RUFORUM master's supported programs, because your work is to be able to engage with farming communities, to be engaged in generation of innovations, to engage in developing of models that can help to sustain and ensure that agriculture can run as a business. So that is really the core. The scholarship is just an instrument. So what then we can say over these last years, at least directly we've been able to work with 1.7 million farmers. And that for me is about accessing various technologies, innovations, and different management practices that are crucial to the development of the ag sector and changing their livelihoods. The issue is that we are at least at the forefront of also ensuring and helping that we deploy the universities to deliver complementary extension services. We recognize that there is a challenge on extension services, but we always say universities are underutilized. So the issue then is that there has to be opportunity. How do we deploy universities to be actively engaged in the delivery of extension services? If we can begin to see universities as places to provide service to rural communities, to communities around them, then the universities can become more active and useful. So this for me is part and parcel of what we are doing.
Thank you, Dr. Aguero. Give me one big thing, one big one that you've done that you want us to put a flag and say, Africa equals Reform.
All right, so one big thing is the development of which so far we have about 26 value chains, agricultural value chains that we have been able to strengthen and develop across 8 African countries. And that for me is a big thing, because we've been able to move from access of inputs to production to commercialization. And that for me is a big issue.
Congratulations, congratulations. Thank you so much. Come back to you during question time. Let me move now to Friends of Africa. We've got Prof. James Pidcock out of Australia, who's going to share with us circular economy. Jamie, are you in?
Professor Sibanda, it is a great pleasure to see you again and to see all of our African colleagues online.
Thank you so much. What is a circular economy? It sounds scary. It sounds like the days we were moving from socialism to capitalism to all sorts of scary things. What is a circular economy?
Well, circular economy is about making our agricultural systems, in this case, stronger by making sure that we minimise waste, that we reuse waste to make profits, and that we value add the things that we grow and produce to minimise imports. And so what we're trying to do is to generate more value, more jobs, more businesses from the same amount of natural resources.
Okay, so we are in an era of sustainability, which I'm told is more for less. Can you unpack that for us in the context of a circular economy?
Indeed. So my program, Transforming Irrigation in Southern Africa, is a partnership with a number of African universities, ADI in Tanzania and Eduardo Mondlane in Mozambique, ICRISAT in Zambia, and government agencies. And what we've been looking at are the failed irrigation schemes, where a lot of money has been wasted building infrastructure that doesn't work, that's not producing very productive crops, where the infrastructure is failing and large tracts of the command area are abandoned. What we're doing is working with those farming communities to help them use their limited land, limited water resources to get higher crop yields, and to think about the wastes that are generated as a result. Things like the crop wastes. What can they be used to do? Can they be used to feed livestock and generate more value from what otherwise would be a waste product? Can we further process those crops nearby and make a higher value product where, again, the wastes can be reused, where the farmers, the farming communities can develop businesses, employ more people, engage young people in technology, in that sort of processing, generate more income for the women. And as one very simple example, we have provided some very simple to use soil, moisture and fertiliser monitoring tools. And the farmers themselves, not the extension officers, the farmers themselves can tell when they need to water. Generally, they find they only need to water a third or a half as often as they were. that saves vast amounts of work time during the week. That frees up farmers, particularly women, to use that time to do other productive things, to set up small businesses. And so one example was a lady we met who set up a bakery as a result of having that extra time. Now, at her nearest town, Philabuzi, loaves of bread were being driven 300 kilometres from Harare. Now, I think that's ridiculous. You know, that opportunity to set up a bakery business, to use the local produce, to make what local people need, to sell it, to keep that money in the community, I think is an example of the circular economy benefiting Africans.
Jamie, talk to me. This whole issue is about partnerships, right? What did you bring that the local partners could not do on their own? What's your value proposition in this whole circular economy for the communities you're working with?
In terms of the research for development, we brought money, which helps, and we brought together researchers in the 3 different African countries. We brought together the policy experts from FANRPAN, and we brought together some knowledge from Australia, and together we made better knowledge from the sum of the parts. What we brought to the farmers, the farming communities, was an opportunity for them to actually set the agenda. So we used a process called agricultural innovation platforms and trusted the local communities to tell us what the problems really were. And then we followed up with their problems. And so that was an opportunity for the farmers not to follow some directive from the national capital to only grow maize, but to actually say, our maize crop isn't profitable. Let us find crops that are profitable. Let us find ways of accessing cheaper inputs to make our cropping profitable. And that way, we were able to help those communities realise their dreams for their community.
All sounds good to my ears, but tell me about the staying power of that innovation, of those partnerships that you coined. Walk me 2021 September to 2025 September.
Yep.
What will I see in Philabuzi?
So we've been at it for 9 years. We think that it will be sustainable because these interventions are based on making profit. And so because the farmers are more profitable, because they're telling the government extension staff what they want help from the government to be profitable, because the local businesses are profitable, we think that they will be sustainable regardless of whether we are there or not. We want to be, together with our African partners, continuing this journey, and in particular, to work out ways in which it can scale up. So it's all very well working with 15,000 irrigation farmers, but how do those knowledge and solutions spread, the circular solutions spread to other irrigation areas?
And what are your plans on that?
We have several plans. One is that we have been working with some of the businesses based in the nearest African cities. And so the businesses that are benefiting from the current irrigation schemes, we're encouraging them to take as a business proposition the same changes to other irrigation areas. We're also looking to modularise the added value businesses. So put in a shipping container a bakery or a rice mill or a dairy or an abattoir so that it can be taken to other communities. So it's at a scale that can be financed and so that business begins to drive that intensification of the agricultural commodity, the adding value, the adding jobs, the reusing waste.
Excellent. It's all music to my ear when you bring in private sector-led innovations that are fueled by partnerships on the ground, but supported internationally. And for me, that staying power is really based on what's in it for me and what's in it for you. And I hope you've been very clear in your partnerships that it's win-win and no one is being used.
Absolutely. So everything from our agreement with the researchers, where all our papers are jointly authored among our African and international researchers, through to the communities. It only works if they make a profit. I know there are many government representatives participating. We were worried that the governments would feel that what we were doing was undermining their role. In fact, what has happened is the government staff, the extension staff say that these interventions have made their lives better.
That's how it should be. That's how it should be, because we are the government, we are the people. So it's about the people benefiting, not government feeling sidelined. If anything, government is not a provider, is not an implementer of policy. Their role is really policy making, and we implement the policies. So well done on that initiative. And we will hold you to account 2 years from now. And we hope we can see your publications and be able to track your story.
I expect nothing less, and most of our publications are open access, so they can be seen now.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Colleagues, the roundtable is coming to an end. I have to sign off close to on the hour. Let's move now to Dr. Bheki Moyo. I love talking money, but now I'm talking to a philanthropist who is looking at magic, the magic of providing money to where it's needed. It's a good segue from what we discussed with Dr. Pitchko, where he believes he has made our farmers richer. Dr. Moyo, how are you promoting innovative financing? But first of all, who are you?
Thank you very much. So I think to respond to the question, what do I do and why do I do it? I was meant to have become a Roman Catholic priest.
And you would have made a great one.
And I didn't make it. So I always think that I became a different priest in the work that I do. And that is to promote Africanness, that is to promote issues around solidarity, issues around how we can create self-help in order to develop ourselves. And that's exactly what our center is focusing on. So when we talk about philanthropy, we're really talking about simple acts of making sure that no one goes to bed hungry. And growing up in our different communities, this was one of the key elements of neighborliness.
And Ma'am Tomela, go on mute, please. Thank you. Go ahead. My apologies, Dr. Moyo.
No problem. So I was saying that was one of the key, features that described who we are, making sure that neighbors take care of each other. And you can see this in different customs, whether it's through burial societies, stokvels in South Africa, merry-go-rounds, the susus. All those are, fundamentals of who we are. And in many ways, if you wanted to describe philanthropy, we have to start there. But of course, over time.
Before you go on with why you are where you are, please help me unpack philanthropy.
Yeah, so it's a term that we also don't like using. It's a term that is technically it means love for humanity. But love for humanity is expressed in different ways. And so in the African continent, because we did not have institutions of higher learning and publications on philanthropy, we quickly adopted the use of the term from the West, especially from the US, where the discipline is more advanced.
So what would you say is the appropriate vernacular? I loved what Imwe has done on their own platform. My grandmother can relate to Ukama Usavi. What is philanthropy in your own language?
So the closest here in Southern Africa is the concept of Ubuntu. You are because I am. But I think in other regions, you can also have equivalent terms to actually do that. I mean, we have approached it from the perspective of helping, caring, passion. And I think, you know, each language has got an equivalent of that.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. So take us home. How do you promote innovative financing? Who are you financing, and what are the platforms that tools that you are recommending we use?
Yeah, so I mean, I wanted to start with a disclaimer that when I was invited to this dialogue, I actually asked the organizers, what do they want me to talk about? Because we are not anywhere closer to doing stuff on agriculture, food systems, among others. We are a center that is dedicated to the study and promotion of African philanthropy and social investment. And within that spectrum, we are conducting research across the continent to identify how African philanthropists, and by African philanthropists, we're really talking about a spectrum from an individual to high net worth individuals. We are also talking about funding that can be provided by corporate companies, and this can be in the form of their social investment programs. This can be in the form of impact social bonds that they can be part of. This can be in the form of other forms of investments, shareholding, among others. But we are also talking about foundations, philanthropic foundations, and these can be independent foundations, family foundations, but they can also be foundations that are set up by international bodies, but they are operating in the continent. So from that perspective, you can see that not only should we be depending on government funding, if we talk about the Maputo Declaration, because the challenges around that was that we know, when governments said they were going to be giving 10%, they actually, most of them did not even take into account how much they've already committed to other initiatives. And so you end up having 10% that is, governments are not able to meet. So we don't have to depend on government funding only. We can also look into other sources, and these sources are either innovative or alternative. And so philanthropy provides one possible area to actually support the work that farmers in food systems and agriculture can be focusing on. And I think here it's really about, if you look at the trends in terms of funding to this sector, you won't find much of funding going to agriculture, to climate change, among others. Partly because as a sector, I think, it hasn't really been promoted to an extent that it gets the attention of philanthropists. There are exceptions, of course. If you look at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, among us, they do provide support to this area. But I think it's also got to do with framing. How do we get funding for agriculture, for food systems, without necessarily saying I'm looking for money for agriculture? So donors fund specific areas. So they fund, for example, in the area of technology. And technology is getting a lot of attention, especially during this time of COVID and post-COVID. There will be lots of investments going into technology. From the perspective of farmers and agriculture, there's a role that technology is going to be playing. And I think some of the presentations were talking to that. Can we frame our proposals, our bankable ideas around technology in agriculture, in food systems, and so forth and so on? So rather than looking for funding from those donors that are funding in the agriculture area, you actually approach donors that are funding in technology, and you bring in the agriculture part. The second is advocacy. A lot of what we're discussing here has to do with policy implications, advocacy, change of behavior among international partners, local partners, farmers, and so forth. Again, there are so many donors that are funding in the area of advocacy, both local and international. How can we frame our bankable ideas around advocacy, but within the space of agriculture and food systems? There's the issue around climate change. For a long period, this did not get the attention of donors, but we know now that climate change is a big issue and donors are beginning to pay attention to it. How do we link our food systems with climate change considerations and implications, and begin to look for funding around that? So I can go on in terms of framing, but so far what we have seen is that donors tend to prefer funding in education, in health, and to some extent population issues, but very rarely do you see money going to agriculture, to climate change and among others. So it means there's a role that we need to play in order to be promoting that. The second is donors tend to fund in what we call democratic context, money flows to democratic context. How do we utilize that, but also make sure that the other countries that are not defined as democratic also benefit? And I think this is where the issue around partnerships comes in terms of making sure that we don't leave anyone behind. But there's also the issue around the flow of money having to begin to take new instruments. So what are the new instruments that are available? So we are beginning to see lots and lots of people focusing on social bonds. Is there a possibility for the agriculture sector to think about impact social bonds, get into impact investing, venture philanthropists who are interested not just in return in terms of financial benefits, but they're also interested in social benefits. So a lot of donors are providing what we call mission-related investments as well as program-related investments. So we can actually tap into that, and it's a win-win for both the donor as well as the recipient organization.
Dr. Moyo, I've allowed you to go on because you are a good priest. We need to have this sermon. And I don't know, I'm not seeing any new charts on this, but I really think that is where we have been left behind. We have all these wonderful initiatives that are crying for money, not because they are not doing a good thing, but because we are not packaging ourselves right, and we are also not knocking on the right doors at the right time. And all that we are learning is a skill, and there is a whole Professor Moyo who is doing this as bread and butter issues. So why can't we run a special session that really unpacks this for us? I'm glad that FANRPAN brought you in. I'm glad that you are talking to everybody who should be in the room. And I'm speaking on behalf of everybody else. We are weak when it comes to money issues. That's why donor is our biggest friend. Yet we can ride on who we are, what we have, position it right for growth. But this start-stop is because we have never known how to, as you rightfully say, look at other opportunities of finding money that we can grow and use to grow other initiatives. So I'm supposed to stop on the hour and open up for questions. I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions. Our main moderator will now go through the chat. I want to thank everybody who's contributed to the roundtable, but also thank those who've posted information on our chat. It's pregnant with information, with suggestions, and with questions. But we have one unhappy farmer. As I sign off, moderator and Tate, can you please go to our farmer who is really not happy with us, who says all these people are talking and we've been left out. There's no farmer in this whole platform. Please allow our farmer to have a voice. I've got their name here, and let me call them out and leave them on the Pedro Garcia. Are you still around? Pedro? I'm going through the participants. He's not in, but he says, thank you very much for these sessions. Unfortunately, I have to leave, so he's left, and would like to thank everyone for contributing to my understanding of food systems. I'm also pleased to have met my new hero. I won't mention the name. Please consider broader and more meaningful participation of grassroots representatives, and remain mindful that power dynamics differ considerably between the various stakeholders. They are those and us. When you are ready to completely integrate fisheries into this discussion, please look me in. Excellent. We are hearing from those we have left behind, and I'm sure, FANRPAN, you realize there's popular demand. Keep doing what you do best, but make sure that we put this into an institutionalized format that is well-funded so that we grow the pie and reach those that should be benefiting the most, who are our farmers who need a conducive, climate-smart agriculture and resilient, nutrition-sensitive agriculture. I sign off now and hand over to our main moderator, who's got some 10 minutes to take us to wrapping up of the discussions so that we move forward. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sibanda, for that very engaging and very insightful engagement that you had with a number of very knowledgeable speakers that we had there. I have no idea, I have no doubt that if this was indeed a session where they had to report back, or their organization and constituencies in which they represent were part of this, surely they will know that they made a very good point in making you understand why they do what they do, and they do it so well. And I think there was a very clear passion about what they do best and some of the good progress they have achieved so far. Yes, there are still those areas that needs to be looked at and to address. But let me then open up this discussion, and by the show of hands, if there are any that wants to add into the discussion to provide more insight into the different areas that we have covered, from the academia point of view to the raising of funds, into the youth participation, and into the circular flow of economy from our friends of Africa, but also from all those regional initiatives that we have had. If any of the attendants from the floor wants to have any contribution into this discussion we are having, please do so now. I will be taking hands, and I will ensure that I give you the platform.
Dr. Ntombela, there is a discussant from AATF on the adjusted program that Professor Sibanda left out.
Okay.
Please. If you can allow
Mr. Chinogo, right? Mr. Chinogo, please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Francis, and everyone else that is on this meeting. I wish to really thank you for inviting AATF, and my executive director, I think, made those sentiments also very clear on the first day when he participated in the high-level opening. I wish to just make a few remarks, knowing that our time is also not on our side. I've been quite persuaded by some of the presentations, and because they do align with some of the things I was about to say or contribute in the substantive session, I just wish to make those few remarks. So as AATF, we work on transferring technologies, in particular agriculture technologies, to smallholder farmers, because we believe that technology is one of the missing link among so many other things that smallholder farmers need to access to improve productivity and production. But we've also noted that in that quest to deploy technologies in the hands of smallholder farmers, it has not been very easy. I personally work on a project called Open Forum on Agriculture Biotechnology. And as you can deduce from the name, we are obsessed with the idea of transferring agriculture biotechnology products into the hands of farmers. But if I have to pick the cue from my colleague from FARA, we've really seen that agriculture biotechnology, despite its huge potential, has not actually been a priority for most of our governments. And that being the case, we've not been able to reap the benefits that come with agriculture biotechnology. And the few countries that have done or have gone that path have been very few in Africa. So we're looking at Ghana, we're looking at Nigeria, who have just commercialized cowpea, and the results there are actually mind-boggling. And I wish other countries could actually emulate. We are looking at South Africa and the progress they're making in terms of how the increased production is able to incentivize industrialization, but also food security in that country. But we have some big challenges in the sense that, one, we've not allowed agriculture biotechnology development in Africa to be influenced or to be informed by science. So most of the times the policies have been lacking. We know we have the Cartagena Protocol on biodiversity, and that protocol is meant to improve the deployment of agriculture biotechnology while at the same time protecting biodiversity. And most of our countries and our governments have only looked at the precautionary side of the Cartagena Protocol, and it's not working for our good. We've seen that gap in terms of information around agriculture biotechnology, and it is actually always surrounded by bad perceptions that it is causing cancer. Even when we know on the ground, there's no evidence from science that biotechnology can cause cancer. We've also seen that governments, within the framework of the Malabo Declaration, governments are not actually monitoring how they're doing in terms of improving agriculture biotechnology. So when you look at the indicators, there is no agriculture biotechnology as an issue which they're supposed to be monitoring and also improving in that sense. So we're locked out in terms of the benefits that can come out of agriculture biotechnology. And it is our job, so to say, in Africa as ATF, to push that. And we're seeing a few countries moving in the right direction. And as I said earlier on, Nigeria, South Africa, Malawi, my own country, also are making strides, starting with the non-food crop cotton. And we really hope that this momentum can pick up, and slowly by slowly, we can actually bring agriculture biotechnology as one of the critical and important tools to deal with some of the challenges that are besetting agriculture in Africa. I think there was a mention of climate change. I think one of the things that we really believe is that climate change, there are some of the challenges that come with climate change can be solved by agriculture biotechnology. So we have water efficient technologies, for example, that would allow our crops to mature in less than 60 days. And this is a biotech crop. We have the BT cowpea that I talked about, which is able to deal with the Maruca virus, which reduces production by 80%. And all these things are coming in because of agriculture biotechnology. And we really think it's very important that we democratize the agriculture space to extend where we allow all the technologies into the space and indeed allow farmers to have that choice. And the whole Africa will be able to benefit from the results of this integration of different technologies. So with those remarks, and also knowing that time is not on our side, I really want to thank you once again and reiterate the comments that my executive director made on the first day of this policy dialogue, that we really want to naturalize our participation in this, because we do think the policy dialogue that FANRPAN runs is a very critical space where we think we can bring in our learnings from the work that we're doing, but also we can learn from others in terms of how they're doing, what they're doing, and how they can leverage on some of the things that we're doing. So thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, and we are very grateful that you allowed us to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chineko, for that very brief and emphasis also on the technology side. We are still taking more hands. If you also want to address Mr. Chineko on some of the critical areas he's mentioning. I
would like to speak.
Will assist me with the hands. I see there's CD Osho on the floor.
Yes.
CD, on the floor.
All right, thank you very much. Sorry, I can't see my hand, but it's okay. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I just want to respond in terms of a question to the last speaker, when he mentioned the BF cowpea that is promoting biotechnology. I'm a member of the Biotechnology Association for Nigeria, and we also work on the policies. But one thing is very clear: people look with skepticism at the end products and at the crops that come out of biotechnology. they see it as something, you know, totally new. How are you addressing that in Nigeria? Because I visited the Biotechnology Agency and I told them that, you know, there is need for more advocacy. However, I would like to see a model that has been used successfully to promote those kind of crops that come out of biotechnology. And also, how are you monitoring and the impact of these crops in the field and also impact in the household utilization space? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Osho. And you're quite right that until today, perceptions around the negative effects, quote unquote, of biotech products still reign. And as I was saying earlier on, one of the things that we've noted is because we've had a vacuum in terms of information. So information around the safety of these products has actually not been transmitted to farmers. But even when it is transmitted, that information is also made by extreme activism from the other side, who continue to mention that the agriculture biotechnology products are not safe. So what we've really done is really to come up with a project on information dissemination, which is called the Open Forum on Agriculture Biotechnology. And the whole idea of the program is really to bring into conversation the different actors in the space so that we can discuss, and at country level, even at the community level, we can come up with a shared vision around what agriculture biotechnology is really all about. So within the framework of the Open Forum on Agriculture Biotechnology, we do bring into discussion scientists, we do bring it into policymakers, we also bring in farmers so that we really discuss, we get to hear what is this agriculture biotechnology, and dispel some of the fears around agriculture biotechnology. So you notice that, for example, when an activist is talking bad about agriculture biotechnology, maybe you've seen these images of a potato with a syringe, and really it does generate some very bad perceptions about what really happens. But you and me know that that is not exactly what happens. So that perception is something that we really working hard to dispel. The other thing has also been that we understand collaboration, and it's very important. And sometimes I think in our collaboration, we've been very, we've been showing for sometimes the international scientists. Nothing wrong with that, but I think that has, in our own learning, it has also been further that the activism have been feasting on and saying this is an external agenda. Look at the scientists that are developing these products. So what we're trying to do, for example, in the case of Nigeria and in the case of Kenya and other countries where they've made progress, is really to ensure that we project that this is a national agenda. So the scientists, the local scientists that have been working on these projects, they're the ones that have been actually spokespersons about this, and also really bringing in the farmers to demonstrate the benefits that are seen in growing these kind of products. So I would say that I think that is the information aspect for me is a big deal. And it is something that we've seen really moving the needle in that aspect. It is something that has really helped governments to be comfortable to come up with policies and allow commercialization of these products. And we want to continue to do that. So we're in 7 countries, and in the next few months, we'll be moving into 3 more countries with OFAB, these countries being Rwanda, Malawi, and Mozambique. Okay. In terms of monitoring, it is very important that we ensure safety. So these products are actually developed along a certain protocol, and it is very important that once they are deployed on the ground, those protocols continue to be observed. So we do have an accompaniment stewardship program, which goes on with the deployment framework of different products that we have. So that one we're investing a lot because it's a very critical element of deployment of GM products.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam, for that question, Prof. I'm still taking other hands if there's any from the floor. It appears that the very insightful conversation we've been having have covered most of those that have had questions, and you have managed to also meet to their expectation and you seem to be very clear. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know, I will, if there's still anyone who wants to raise any other hand into the participant in the dialogue we've had today. If there is none, I would like us to then move into the next sessions where I invite Ms. Stembele to give us in terms of the way forward around the catalyzing actions to transform the Africa's food system. And thereafter, I will ask the Chief Rapporteur, Doc, to give us some of the key resolutions that we'll be taking as we move in using the information we've had today to strengthen our implementation processes on the ground in our various areas in which we are making our change through these food systems in Africa. May I then ask Ms. Stembele to come to the floor?
Thank you, Dr. Ntombela, for inviting me. And wow, what a morning! I've been glued at the edge of my seat, listening to the panel discussions, and I think it has rounded the dialogue off very well. And I just want to maybe I know that the CEO is going to do the closing remarks and thank yous and all that, but I think it's been a very exciting 3 days that we have had. And I want to especially thank the rapporteurs, because they are the people that have been feeding me information that I am going to share at this point. I was actually in discussion with them to say, how are you capturing all this rich information? Because really, that's what it has been. Very rich information, very clear actions, very clear recommendations on what needs to happen. So I just wanted to register my thanks to the rapporteur team, which has been led by Dr. Njongenhle. So over the last 18 months, FANRPAN has been part of a global process of engagement to accelerate action to transform food systems. And I know that we are not alone. Most and all of our partners, I think, that have participated in this dialogue have been part of the journey with us. We have had national dialogues, we have had regional dialogues that we have convened with some of our partners. We have had outcome statements that have been incorporated to the final statements that were presented representing the Africa Voice at the just ended Food System Summit. So I think 2020, 2021 has been a very important year for food systems. And in the last 2 days, and again this morning, we have heard that we need healthier, more sustainable and equitable food systems. Getting there won't happen. I think that has been a clear message throughout the discussions, and business as usual will definitely not work. We need new approaches and bold actions to shape healthier, more resilient, sustainable, and equitable food systems. So we have been listening to the presenters, we've been listening to the discussions, and this is what we have picked out as key priority areas to transform Africa's food systems. First off, it's clear that we need to prioritize the adoption of nature-based solutions to improve agricultural productivity and enhance food and nutrition security. This will have to go hand in hand with prioritizing agrobiodiversity to ensure diverse, safe, and nutritious food. But then again, that on its own won't be enough. We need to make sure, as we have had, that we need to adopt and promote new technologies and mechanizations in family farms to commercialize their enterprise and ensure food security. I'm sure that for those that were with us from day one, you will remember FANRPAN Deputy Chair, Dr. Theo Diega, who advocated quite strongly for adoption of new technologies for family farms. We also have picked out that there is need to promote effective use of ICT to improve food production and access to profitable and reliable agricultural markets. We heard about the Africa Free Trade Continental Agreement and the opportunities that that presents. So it is important that we actually make sure that we promote that and make sure that our farmers have access to it. In the same vein of promoting profitable and reliable agriculture markets, we also had that we need to foster agriculture market linkages and invest in public-private partnerships. We need to develop our infrastructure, we need to build capacity, and we need to make sure that our smallholder farmers have the best skills and the best tools and equipment to be able to ensure sustainable food systems. Also, that has to happen within a conducive policy environment. So there's need to promote the use of tools and instruments for policy strategy and program implementation by ensuring that we invest in this sector. We also need to promote the use of evidence and data for policy decision and practice. We heard from academia just this morning about the importance of big data. What we know is that we cannot mitigate or manage what we cannot measure. So data, evidence is going to be a very key component of transforming our food systems. So finally, having listened to the different discussions, I think one thing that has been consistent and that has been clear from the keynote that we had from Dr. Jemima to the presentation or to the points that were raised by our colleague from Waipa this morning is that we need to strengthen the capacity of women and youth to ensure resilience of vulnerable communities against shocks such as climate change and pandemics such as COVID-19 that we are currently going through. So we know that these efforts must be responsive to country priorities, right? We are talking here at regional level, but at the end of the day, we have to go to our individual countries to be able to make sure that we implement this. So whilst these efforts must be responsive to country priorities, we need to make sure that we are facilitating systems impact at scale. And this can be done through multi-stakeholder initiatives at local, national, and regional levels. And to be effective, the identified actions that I've just listed should be anchored in science, evidence, and knowledge. From our engagements in these past 3 days, we realized that there's a wealth of knowledge, expertise, resources, and capacity within the FANRPAN network, and we are ready to connect with national and regional stakeholders to make sure that this happens. So going forward, as FANRPAN, we want to strengthen our partnerships with a range of food system stakeholders at global, regional, national, and local levels. And staying true to our mandate, part of what we will do is we'll continue to promote dialogue to facilitate the interaction of science, experience, and policy so that we affect further risk and avail new opportunities to build more resilient and sustainable food systems. We also want to forge collective solutions to ensure that food systems transformations delivers on societal objectives and commitments. And we realize that for this to happen, we need to have the right capacities in place. So we want to build capacities to renew and develop national policies and programs to address emerging challenges and opportunities while fostering strategic coordination among sectors and stakeholders. I think having reflected on what 2020, 2021 has had or has delivered, we must really appreciate the momentum that has been generated by the Food System Summit Dialogue process. However, we should not forget our own African homegrown processes. As we were reminded by Dr. Yemi from FARA, mutual accountability mechanisms such as CADIP and the Malabo biennial review process will be crucial for generating improved policies and achieving better outcomes on food systems transformation. And will also help ensure that policies respond to the needs of all stakeholders, including the most vulnerable and marginalized. And not forgetting Pedro's point that was raised in the end, that when we're talking food systems, we're not just talking about crops, but we're talking livestock, we're talking fisheries. So we need to be able to bring all the different stakeholders together. So this is what we have heard during the last 3 days. And these are some of the key actions that as FANRPAN, we are committing to taking forward after this dialogue. And we will will be definitely reaching out to our partners to make sure that they come along on the journey with us. I thank you. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you so much, Sis Tembi. I'm just still hoping that you'll give us more as I get excited with all these resolutions that you have provided. I could not stop listening to you. And thank you so much for that. And thank you so much also to the rapporteur that you have worked with in drafting all those. We certainly look forward with all the partners as FANRPAN ensure that all these key and crucial strategies and solutions that have been unpacked over the past 3 days do see light on the ground, working closely with the partnerships of the private sector, the government, and all those that have a role to play within our food system in our beautiful continent. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now nearing that part where we bring in the executives to give us their reflections in terms of also on the proceeding that has happened till far, but it's also the time where we hear from them in terms of what next in terms of harvesting these solutions that have happened and how they get to be implemented on the ground. Without any further waste of time in that line, I would like to then welcome Dr. the Node coordinator from Mauritius to give us his in the note, Dr. Shane. If you can then take the floor, please. Is
Thank
Dr.
you,
Shane
Sivizu.
Hadwo with us?
Yes, thank you, Sivizu. I'm here. So dear CEO FANRPAN, Chairperson of FANRPAN, former CEO FANRPAN, Chairperson of Dialogue, FANRPAN staff, FANRPAN node coordinators and participants, all protocol observed. Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of all node coordinators, I wish to thank FANRPAN to organize such an important event on an important theme, catalyzing action to transform Africa's food systems. During these 3 days, we had inspiring messages and enlightening presentations from different actors and representatives of institutions who are working to mainstream food and nutrition security in the region, to inform policy and practice, to stimulate adaptation and resilience for an inclusive food system. We also witnessed rich discussions after the panel presentations, illustrating the essential role capacity building, technologies, policy instruments play for agriculture and food production. We believe that the presentations during these 3 days, they were very timely, especially in the context of the United Nations Food System Summit, and had a clear message as follows: to catalyze action on urgent implementation of policies and programs to transform Africa's food systems to deliver sustainable and healthy food for all. We are pretty sure that the dialogue has facilitated virtual knowledge exchange and networking. So on behalf of all node coordinators, I am very glad to express our thanks to the CEO of FANRPAN, Dr. Chilidzi Madzivandila, the FANRPAN chairperson, Professor Sidi Osho, the chair for facilitating the dialogue, Professor Simba Sibanda, Mrs. Tembile Mwamakamba, all keynote presenters, panel presenters, all facilitators and rapporteurs, and of course, all participants for the successful conduction of the virtual dialogue during these 3 days. I hope that you have enjoyed the fruitful presentations, and we look forward to next year's policy dialogue. And on that note, I wish you a nice day. Thank you.
Dr. Sifiso, back to you. If you're speaking, you're...
Sorry, Dr. Shane, I'm looking at your screen and I'm thinking I'm speaking to you only to find I'm speaking to myself, as I can still see the pictures on the screen. Apologies for that.
It's okay.
I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, it's fine. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Hadwo. That was very welcome and beautiful. We are now, as I was saying, in our program, we're supposed to have Professor Osho speaking before Dr. Mazivandel, but I have been reminded of terms of the established protocols that the chairperson is the one that does have the last signing powers of ensuring that the solutions and the resolution that we have harvested over the past 3 days get a very good green light from her. So to ride on those established protocols, I would like to first then I request Dr. Mazivandela to take us to speak and take the floor, and then later on I will humbly request the chairperson of the board to take the last note. Dr. Chilidzi, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you so much, Program Director, Dr. Ntombela. Indeed, we had to revise the program, and participants here in this platform will have to forgive us. I cannot speak the last word after my boss, so my boss need to have the last word. So with that regard, ladies and gentlemen, let me start by saying that when I rendered my welcome remarks, it was an anxious one, not knowing what will transpire during the 3 days. However, I have came to a realization that you can plan as much, and there are certain things that can go wrong. As FANRPAN, what we have as a motto is that we plan for perfection. However, even though what we delivered in some people's eyes might not be a perfection, from our side, we are within our heart believing that we have delivered the perfect 2021 FANRPAN annual regional dialogue. That said, for me as a person, and as a CEO and head of mission of FANRPAN and accounting officer, the 3 days, including today, has been very fulfilling and yet very humbling at the same time. The policy dialogue theme about catalyzing action to transform Africa's food system and the daily themes that we have had, then for me, it were a humbling moment. When we opened today's session, the moderator of the session spoke about that we are shortchanging those that are supposed to be beneficiaries of the work that I do. Then looking at the FANRPAN strategy 2016, which is going to be implemented through to 2023, borrowing more from its vision, which talk about resilient African agriculture and food system, securing prosperity and health for all. I think in that regard, we are not yet there. And looking at the 2 thematic areas, which are nutrition sensitive agriculture, which we deliberated more in day 1, and 2, climate smart agriculture, which we deliberated more in day 2. I think in this attempt, we have tried to have some positive steps to addressing the main issue, which is about transforming an Africa food system. We have not done enough. However, the battle is not lost yet. So let's soldier on and make sure that we are delivering and we are staying true to the theme of the dialogue, which I repeat is about catalyzing action to transform Africa food system. So if we fail to make sure that we are catalyzing an action, we will be failing those that are supposed to be the beneficiaries of the work that we do. And without them, it means that we are not employed. So for us to keep employed, so we have got to make sure that there's an action which is delivering positive results. In terms of making sure that we are staying true to this track, I believe that the 3 days deliberation that we've had, 1, is going to bring back the better. And 2, we have started to catalyze the action. And 3, if we have done 1 and 2, we are going to have a transformed and an inclusive African food system. that we want all to contribute to. Because if you don't contribute to that as a collective, I think we will be failing as an arrival on these issues. This cannot be done alone by FANRPAN. We at FANRPAN, we are not about competition. We are about availing our comparative advantage. And our comparative advantage lies on the three things that were established to deliver on. The first one being policy research analysis. The second one being capacity strengthening in terms of institutions and individuals that are participating in food systems. And the third one being the policy advocacy. And the dialogue that we're having now is about delivering on the third strategic focus that we're having. And I believe that we have 3 days, including today. We are, as FANRPAN, saying that we are reaching out to the partners who have declared that they are collaborative areas which we need to start to talk about. There are some that we have started the discussion of engagement. There are some that we are currently implementing core programming areas collaboratively. And there are some that we still are going to find each other. Like I said, as FANRPAN, we are available to partner with anyone within the continent and globally who is willing to make sure that the Africa food system that is always faltered to not be delivering, then is transformed to make sure that is delivering the best interest of the beneficiaries within the continent. I will ask Kanto to share a slide where I want to acknowledge people that are, or institutions that are currently investing in FANRPAN work. First, then, these are the partners that are investing in our programming area. I will have wished that then these partners, we are having them in 3-4 slides, but however, we can fit all the logos in one slide, which means that we are not having enough of partners that we are collaborating with. Then I won't go through the list because then we're running behind time. Then I will just encourage people to just glean through the slide and see the partners that are collaborating with FANRPAN in terms of implementing the programming areas. What I'm trying to send a message around this slide is that as FANRPAN, we wish to be projecting 3 slides with partners that are having common areas of collaboration. Policies are there, but to implement the policies, we have to implement programs and projects. So as FANRPAN, we need partners to implement those initiatives that will bring the difference and impact that we need in terms of making sure that the innovations that we have deliberated about are scaled up, are scaled out, and are scaled deeper. As FANRPAN, we are inviting partners to come and work with us. So Kanto, if you can put down the slide so that I continue with my presentation. So in terms of coming back home, then I think I will be shortchanging my colleagues then if I don't thank them in public arena. So to my colleagues, as FANRPAN, as an executive officer, I really appreciate your efforts, not pointing to one person, but as a collective. Those who don't know, FANRPAN, we're not a big team, we are a small team, but what we have realized as a winning formula is that for us to deliver the success that we are delivering on currently, we have to work as a collective. And the team today, they proved that we can deliver as a collective. To give an example, day one, we have picked in terms of the delegates at 78 participants. Day two, we have picked at 74, and the participation was consistent throughout the 3 hours. Today, we have picked at 90 plus. And then for us, in terms of our planning, we have thought that then day 3 need to be an apex in terms of the work that we do. And Prof. Sibanda, my former boss, my mentor, she has diligently delivered what we have asked her to do, to make sure that it's not about us telling you what to do, but to get the people that are participating throughout the food systems chain to give you what they are doing and what is that they're contributing in terms of making sure that collectively we are transforming the Africa agriculture and the food system to make sure that the Africa food system that we are implementing is the system that we want. I will now, ladies and gentlemen, want to acknowledge all those people who have participated in program. Then Ms. Momagia, she has acknowledged the facilitators, our keynote speakers, our panelists, those that have helped us in terms of Portuguese and French interpretation, and the rapporteuring in terms of documenting our deliberations. Those then I really thank in terms of making sure that we are learning, we are documenting, and making sure that what we are deliberated, they are disseminated, and then those that were not part of the platform get to know of what are the resolutions that we've made. We have preambled that we are coming after the UNFSS, which has just happened a week ago. So we are not doing this in isolation. We are building on the work that others have already done. That said, not wasting more of your time, I will want to invite my boss, Prof. Sidi Osho. She is the chairperson of the FANRPAN board and also the chairperson of Sidi Osho Foundation, which is spear championing women issues in agriculture. And with that few words said in terms of introducing her, I know those few words don't do justice in terms of a contribution, but she is also making sure that as FANRPAN, we have a continental feel, and she is working hard to make sure that as FANRPAN, we grow into Western North Africa. Madam, I thank you so much for convening the 2021 dialogue successfully. Without you, who am I? Then we really appreciate your leadership together with the FANRPAN board. With those few words, I thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you again for being part of the 2021 successful FANRPAN annual dialogue. We hope that the next one is physical. It has been 2 years now without seeing each other eyeball to eyeball. We hope that we'll be seeing you very soon. And then we have made a promise that the next dialogue gonna be in West Africa, so we're gonna remain true to that promise, Madam Chair. Over to you.
Madam Chairperson, I think you are muted.
Okay, thank you, CEO. I call him TM. Thank you very much for that introduction. I say good morning to everybody again, good afternoon, good evening, and of course, on behalf of the board members and stakeholders, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's been an exciting 3 days for me as a person. I want to thank you all for really dedicating your time to FANRPAN annual dialogue in the last 3 days. A lot of us are busy, but even in spite of that, we could still see, quite a number of people participating. It has been a rewarding experience for me, and I'm sure it is the same for you. It has also been a learning experience, totally learning experience about new frontiers in agricultural food systems, the players, the UN decisions. It's been a good experience, and I hope you have had the same experience I've had. I want to thank our partners, our stakeholders who had found time to really attend this. Now, mine is to bring this to a close, but however, before I close, I like to boil on a few points. I would like to emphasize the need for action. Our theme for this dialogue is catalyzing action to transform Africa's food systems. We've listened to several presentations, great presentations, suggestions, contributions. We have even listened to new frontiers that has been practiced somewhere else. It is important for us to be able to look and reflect on what we have listened to. Some of them that interest me is the harmonization of policies in food systems that captures pragmatic actions for safe and nutritious foods, the agro-biodiversity solutions, the focus on appropriate technology for women and youth, the use of ICT in agriculture, research and big data, green economy, circular economy, family farms, innovative financing, partnerships, and this morning we're talking about biotechnology. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is important for us to now reflect that we need action. Action is really needed. It is a fact and a process of doing something to achieve an aim. we need to thank and restate our statements that FANRPAN is available. The Food, Agricultural, and Natural Resources Policy Analysis Network is available as a network to partner and to drive some of these actions in Africa. Let us set goals for ourselves, a set of targets, so that we can collectively achieve greater actions to improve the quality or delivery of agriculture in Africa. I congratulate our dear CEO, Dr. Chilizi, and the team in FANRPAN for organizing successfully another dialogue virtually. I'm sure by next year, the issue of COVID-19 would have phased out by the grace of God, and we'll be able to meet in person. I thank all of you, and I thank the partners for helping to keep the fire burning and the momentum for a great work to be done. I want us to go beyond the top shows. I'm aware of the collaborative nature of the policy research and the analysis activities that feed into the Food System Summit dialogues, and particularly on this one, the ongoing capacity strengthening activities, the policy advocacy, the knowledge management at the regional secretariat continues to be, to perform. The commendable, but we have to move further so that we can achieve, more things in the future dates. I'm excited by the fact that the CEO has emphasized the establishment and implementation of collaborative legacy interventions guided by outcomes from the Food System Summit and dialogues. And this one we are now closing will be added to that, some of those achievements. To that, I pledge the full support of the board and urge our CEO and the team to prioritize the transition to action. This time next year, I would like us to look back and reflect and review our report card on the noble target. We have had this journey for long, and we urge all our partners to come to the table now for serious action and implementations. For immediate concern though, let us package the proceedings of this platform and this workshop, and so that we can share with our stakeholders, so that we can enable each and every partner to see their place in the envisaged legacy interventions. For contributions and notes, I think you can still forward your contributions and notes before the end of today, before we close, so that we can capture that in the proceedings. With these few words, I would like to declare the FANRPAN Annual Policy Dialogue closed. We will continue to interact with all of you privately, and as we do that, we'll build back better in the food systems. Thank you very much, and I wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you to Prof. The sessions of today is closed. Chairperson is closing.
Bye-bye for now.